What if I told you that you could get to the heart of an entire 8-year presidency with just 2 sentences? Yeah, it sounds a little crazy, I know, but today that's exactly what we're going to try to do. We're taking one simple fact and one really powerful quote to see if we can unlock the central mission of a major historical figure. So, let's see what they can tell us.
So yeah, that's the big question, right? What can just 2 sentences really tell us about a whole presidency? I mean, how much can we actually learn from such a tiny amount of information? The idea here is that the right 2 sentences can be like a key, something that unlocks a much, much bigger story. So let's put that theory to the test.
All right, so our very first piece of the puzzle is just a single number, 8. Now you look at it, and on its own, it's just a digit, right? But when we're talking about history, about power, this number tells us something absolutely crucial. It tells us about time, about duration.
Specifically, 8 years. And think about what that means. I mean, that's 2 full presidential terms in a lot of countries. That's more than enough time to make some huge changes, to deal with major crises, and to really leave your mark on a nation's history. So this isn't just a number anymore. It's kind of like the box that holds our whole story.
Okay, let's dive into our first section here and get the basic facts down. Because before we can get into any big ideas or ideologies, we gotta know the who, the where, and the when. And our first sentence, which is just a straightforward fact from the Encyclopedia Britannica, is going to do exactly that for us.
And here it is. Ali Khamenei served as president of Iran from 1981 to 1989. See, super simple, direct, you can go look it up. But this one sentence really anchors us in a very specific and pretty turbulent moment in modern history, right after the Iranian Revolution. So boom, just like that, we've got our person, his position, and the exact time frame we're looking at.
Seeing it laid out on a timeline like this, it just makes it so much more real, doesn't it? It's not just a number anymore. This is a very specific chapter in history, kicking off in 81 and closing out in 89. So the big question now is, what happened in that chapter? What was the story?
So we've got the framework, right? 8 years. But again, that's just the box. What was inside the box? What was the big idea, the core message that was driving this whole presidency? To figure that out, well, we need our second sentence.
All right, moving on to our next section here. Now we're making a pretty big shift. We're going from a straight-up historical fact to a guiding philosophy, a core belief that can tell us a whole lot more about the why behind that presidency.
And here it is, our second piece of the puzzle. This one comes from one of Khamenei's presidential speeches. Our revolution must remain independent of foreign influence. Whoa, I mean, that's not just a sentence, is it? That is a full-blown mission statement. It's so packed with meaning, so let's actually break it down piece by piece.
Okay, first up, just look at that first word, our. He doesn't say my revolution or the revolution. He says our. That's such a powerful word choice. It's meant to pull everybody into the exact same story, to frame this thing as a collective fight, a shared identity for the whole nation.
And then you get this really urgent command, must remain independent. The way that's phrased is so important. It's not saying we became independent. It's saying this is an ongoing thing. It suggests that independence isn't something you win once and it's over. It's a constant struggle, something you have to fight for, day in and day out.
Independent from what, though? Of foreign influence. And there it is. This is where a clear opponent is identified. It spells out the central conflict. It's us, the nation, against them, these outside forces that are trying to exert control. It gives that whole struggle a very clear target.
All right, so now we have our 2 pieces of the puzzle, right? We have the 8-year term in office, and we have this core ideological statement. So now, for the really cool part, let's bring them together and see what kind of new picture emerges when we look at them as one connected idea.
Let's actually connect the dots here. On the one hand, you've got the office, the presidency, from 1981 to 1989, and on the other hand, you have the mandate, this powerful, powerful call for independence. When you put them right next to each other like this, a story starts to take shape. It suggests that the entire point of those 8 years in office was to be the engine driving that mandate forward.
And this is really the key takeaway. When you combine these 2 simple sentences, you get a really powerful insight. That 8-year presidency wasn't just a block of time on a calendar, it was a project. Its defining mission was to forge a national identity built on resisting outside control. The office and the ideology, they weren't 2 separate things. They were completely fused together.
So it's pretty wild what just 2 sentences can start to reveal about an entire presidency, isn't it? And it leaves us with a much bigger question, one that goes way beyond this specific example. It makes you wonder, how often does this happen? When a single, powerful idea gets tied directly to the office of a national leader, just how deeply can it steer a country's entire future, for better or for worse? That's definitely something to think about.